Hi everyone, Dan Rother, top student athlete recruiting. I'm going to wait here another minute or two. I'm looking forward to talking to Quad City Rush folks about recruiting and navigating that process. But yeah, a minute or two, we'll wait and then we'll dive into it. All right, it's a couple minutes after 8, so we'll jump into this and get started. See a good number of people on here, so I can make sure I can share my screen here and we'll get started. But all right, now we should be good. Dan Rother, top student athlete recruiting. I'm up here in Dubuque, so I'm not too far from all you in the Quad Cities. But this is a webinar format. If you have a question, you can type it in the chat at the bottom or the Q&A. I'm happy to answer questions along the way. You might want to listen to the process, and I may be able to answer those questions at the end. And or I may answer them through the process. So then in the end, if their questions still exist, feel free to answer. I'll stay on as long as I need to answer any questions I need to as possible. You can also email me. You have my email here, my phone number. You feel free to reach out to me anytime if there's a more personal question or you want to reach out to me in person that way. So happy to do that with questions about recruiting and things like that. So, but what I do is I help high school student athletes get recruited to play college soccer. I'm a college soccer agent, in no better words. My goal is to help prospects and college coaches connect, all right, and find the right fits academically, athletically, socially, financially, where you fit as a student, as a person, and then obviously as a soccer player, and find places where you can maximize your potential as a student and an athlete. That's the goal, right? And so, through the process, I try to help the people I work with find great fit opportunities for them. Everyone's a little bit different. I just had a couple of phone calls tonight with kids I work with about, potential schools for them and what the next steps are based on where they're at in the process. I help them save money on college by knowing how to navigate that part of it, and not just soccer scholarships, but other academic money, financial aid, need-based financial aid. We're going to talk about that stuff here in a little bit, and just reduce the stress of the process in general by knowing what to do next and what's the next step in the process and where should we go. Are you going to spin your wheels? I just talked to a student athlete, and the parents wanted to go on another visit to another school, and I said, I don't think our grades are good enough to get into that school. We need to find that out before we even waste our time and energy. Let's not spend 2 days to go visit this campus when you're probably not going to get accepted because they're really high. The kid's a great student, but they, probably weren't there on the SAT or ACT. Just little things that can help save, like I said, time, energy, and money are all precious. So I'm different than other services out there. I go see every prospect I work with play, so I know exactly the type of player I'm recommending to coaches. In addition to helping them through the process, I use my experience as a college coach, right? So I was a coach at Loras College for a long time, well, over 20 years up here in Dubuque. I still live in Dubuque. Had a lot of success coaching, and I was also associate athletic director where I oversaw recruiting for the whole athletic department. So it was, I understand financial aid. I understand admissions. I understand all of those different aspects of this process, and I understand a lot of the schools out there and all levels. Division 1, 2, 3, NAIA, junior college. There's a lot of choices out there, and we want to help people find the right fit opportunities for them. And that's a really important part of it. Find the best 4 years of your life. Find a place where you're going to get everything out of college and more, and you're going to graduate and be on the career path you want to be on at the end, right? There's different types of recruitment out there, and recruiting is different for everybody. So you can't compare yourself with your friends. All right, some players, have a different process. Some players get found by, somebody because they know them or they have a connection or things like that. Or other players, may not be the right fit for the same school as that other kid. So you can't compare recruiting. It's all different for everybody, and it takes persistence. You're going to hear some no's. You might hear a lot of silence. All right, that's the biggest complaint I get is there's a lot of silence on the other end of this thing because coaches aren't interested. They don't have time to respond to every email they get. When I was coaching, I probably got 20 emails a week from players that show an interest in me, and that's at a Division III school. So a Division II, probably a little bit more. Division I school, even more. Right, and when we got around tournaments, showcases, and ID camps, we were getting flooded. Our inboxes were getting flooded with, "Hey, come see us play, come see me play," and things like that. So a lot of times there's silence on the other end. So you have to be persistent because they didn't hear from you. Maybe they didn't read their email. Maybe they opened it and didn't really look at it because they got interrupted and then they forgot about it. Right. That can happen all the time. You have to make sure you're reaching out to a lot of coaches. I hear about Josh Allen, right? He's now the new, top quarterback in the NFL, Buffalo Bills. He wasn't recruited by anybody out of college, and he wanted to be. He thought he was better. He thought he was great, and he wasn't getting the looks he wanted. So he went to the local junior college, played a year, and then sent out 1,000 emails. And he got 2 responses, Wyoming and Eastern Michigan. All right. And, he went on a visit to Wyoming. They took him. He didn't even play the next year because he was like the 3rd stringer. And then his junior and senior year, he got an opportunity. Basically, guys graduated and somebody else got hurt. And then all of a sudden he sets records. And then he was a top draft pick. And then he's in the NFL, right? It's the same thing in soccer. He had a different path, right? Everyone's got a different path. And that's kind of what I'm getting at is, you have to be persistent. He was persistent. You have to you have to listen to your voices. Who's interested in you? You can't force your way on a roster. You can't just say, oh, I want to go to Clemson and play for Clemson. If you're not good enough to play for Clemson or you don't have the grades to get in Clemson, you're not even going to get a look, right? You have to have, listen to the voices of people who are interested in you. And then you can go to places of those schools that are looking at you. You can go to those places. One of the players I just talked to, their high school coach was telling them to, look at some schools that, hasn't been showing interest in him. Well, he went to the camps, and the coach is like, well, you gotta go to apply to those schools. They show you're truly interested in them. It doesn't work that way. You can't just force your way on a roster. All right. They're not going to just look at you because you applied to the school. They have to be interested in you. So how do you get them to be interested in you? You have a good highlight video. That's definitely a step. You let them know when and where you're playing. You're persistent about that. Letting them know when you're playing in showcases and ID camps and just regular season games. Those sometimes coaches go to those, right? They go to high school games. Believe it or not, a coach will, if they're interested in a player, they'll go to high school games if that's what they have to go to see your player play. But you need to take advantage of all the opportunities out there. It's hard to predict potential, right? I don't think anybody predicted Josh Allen was going to be the best player, one of the best players in the NFL, right? It's hard to predict with all the analytics that NFL had. It's hard to predict. So it's hard for college coaches too. All right. Sometimes we don't, as college coaches, we don't do the best job of predicting talent. It's hard, So again, I help navigate it. I help reach out to coaches. I for the people I work with, I reach out to coaches on their behalf, right? And I can tell a coach, I've seen this kid play, they're good enough, those types of things. And that can help move the needle forward. But enough about that. I want to just give you some insight, things you can do, and some information about the process in general. Obviously, there's COVID complications. If you are a 2023 or 2024 grad, you're still going to have this challenge of the extra year of eligibility. You probably heard about that. Every player in college currently, they played in the 2020, 2021 season or year, got an extra year of eligibility because some seasons were cut short, some didn't have conference games, some didn't play at all. So they came out with a blanket statement that basically said, if you were playing college sports that year, you got an extra year of eligibility. So what that has done is has made a little bit of a log jam for kids that graduated the last couple of years, and then still for the next 2 years. If you graduate in 2025, so you're a sophomore right now, you're going to have it's going to open up some more doors. It's still going to be hard. Don't get me wrong. Being recruited is still going to be difficult. But there's going to be a few more doors open because there's not going to be fifth-year seniors sitting around and going places. We're seeing a lot of fifth-year seniors, at Division I schools or major universities and things like that have caused maybe less freshmen to get recruited to those schools, or even people going to get a master's degree. I just saw something. Johns Hopkins is Division III, and they have 9 graduate students getting PhDs or med school or law school type stuff on their roster. All right. And so they didn't really recruit a lot of freshmen because they're getting seasoned players. They're Division III. They have like 5 of those are Division I fifth-year seniors that played 5 years at Division I schools and then have transferred to a Division III school. They're pretty high power this year. I'm not going to lie, but it's caused this logjam. It's some rosters have gotten a little bit bigger, so you might see some schools that are taking a few more players right now, and then the other ones that our roster is capped. We're full. We don't have room for you. You're a good player, but we just don't have room. So you need to be creative. You need to cast a wide net, especially I think always. I think you need to listen to everybody that you hear interest from. Sometimes the school may not be for you, but you need to listen to people and see what options are out there for you. So I like to talk about the myths and mistakes, right? And the myths of recruiting. First one, scholarships, right? Soccer is different than football and basketball. We see football and basketball on TV, the most. So, everyone kind of thinks Division I is the Mecca, right? And it's got the most scholarships probably and all these different things. It's really actually not quite true, right? So the soccer scholarships are usually partial, and a full ride is very rare in soccer. All right, so there's a certain amount of scholarship money that to be divvied up amongst the whole team, and we're going to talk about that. But you shouldn't be saying you need an athletic scholarship. Rather, you should be saying you're trying to find the best value on college, because you might get a lot more in academic money if you're a really good student. You can add that on top of soccer money, and that can really give you an opportunity to almost have a full ride or have a great financial opportunity. And then because soccer scholarships are partial, grades are really, really important. All right. If you're a freshman on here tonight or a sophomore, you have time to really change your grades. Junior, still you have a little bit of time. Senior year, it's a little bit harder, right? But grades. I can't emphasize that enough. It can really help you. And so let me explain why. At Division I, there's 204 men's teams playing Division I college soccer. There's 9.9 scholarships available per team if they're fully funded. Not every team is fully funded. All right, there's teams out there with 2 or 3 scholarships to divvy up amongst the whole roster. Typical roster is about 28 to 32 players. All right, so let's just say 30. Now we're looking at 30 scholarships divided by 10. It's if you average it out, it's about a third scholarship per player. Typically, the older players are getting more money. They're ones that are proving their worth. They're playing a lot more minutes. Freshman year, you might come in on a lower amount of money. And then if you prove your worth, you're going to get more the next year and the next year and the next year. All right, so those types of things can happen. That being said, is all right. So you get a third scholarship. Let's just say the coach decides everybody on my team is going to get a third scholarship. That's really not true because they might have a really good foreign player. They want to give them a full ride. Now there's 8.9 scholarships for the other 29 players. But if they give out a third scholarship for everybody, let's just say I talked to a coach recently. First question out of their mouth was, what's the grades of the student you're talking about? And I said, well, the student I'm talking about is a 4.0. Great, because a 4.0 at our school gets 50% off. And if I can give them a third scholarship on top of that, now they're at what's that, 83% off. So they only have to pay 17% of the cost of everything, tuition, room, board, books, all that kind of thing. So you can add them on. You can stack academic money on top of athletic money. If you have poor grades, you got no academic money, you might only get the third scholarship. And so now you're paying 66%, right? And the same kid who might, your friend who had good grades might get the 83% off because they got great grades. So grades are matter. That's why grades matter too. All right. And that's why soccer scholarships are not full. It's sad. It makes me sad because I wish we had full ride scholarships like other sports. Because football and basketball, it's either full ride or walk on. There's no in between, Football has 85 scholarships. All right. And then they still have walk-ons on top of that who might earn a scholarship the second year, those types of things. Division II has 200 teams playing, 199. They have 9 scholarships available if they're fully funded. So it's really similar. There's some great Division II teams out there. There's Division II teams. Last year, the number 1 team in Division II played the number one team in Division I to start the year. We're in West Virginia. Marshall had won this previous year, Division I, and another school in West Virginia was Division II champs. They played each other, and the Division II team actually won 4-2. So great level of play. Division III, there's 400 teams playing. There are no athletic scholarships, but they can give sometimes really high merit awards, even more merit award money potentially than Division I and Division II teams. So sometimes that they can be really good opportunities. Some Division III schools are state schools. So a lot of them are small private schools, but some are state schools and can offer some really neat opportunities that way as well. Some are reciprocity deals and other things going on that can make it a really affordable option as well. Good levels of play. There's 400 teams, so it's very striated. What I mean by that is, in Division I, there's really good Division I teams, and then there's really bad Division I teams, and there's everything in between, right? There's the same thing in Division II, the same thing in Division III. My teams, when I was coaching at Loras and we were competing for national championships, we'd go play Division I teams and beat them. We give them great games, all the time. And so, there's not a whole lot of difference sometimes between the highest level of some and the, lower levels of others. I'm not saying we could have gone and beat North Carolina or, Stanford or anything like that, but we could play with some of the lower level Division I teams for sure. NAIA, National Association of Intercollegiate Athletics, it's a different governing body. They're 4-year schools. They're usually small private schools for the most part. St. Ambrose is one. So a familiar name for you in the Quad Cities. They're NAIA. They can offer some scholarship money up to 12. So a school decides how they're going to use that. I don't think St. Ambrose has 12, but there are some that offer 12 scholarships. There's a school, Central Methodist in Missouri, that men's and women's, unbelievable teams. They play up here at Clark in Dubuque next Saturday. I'm going to go. And they beat Tulsa this year, or tied Tulsa in preseason. They beat Western Illinois, and they're just absolutely loaded with talent. A lot of internationals, mostly almost all internationals, to be honest. But there's a few American kids on the roster. But they can offer some scholarship money. Junior colleges can be great opportunities for someone who's looking to maybe isn't heavily recruited. Maybe financials is a huge deal, for a huge important factor to them. Maybe helps you get to the next level. I mean, there's some really good junior college soccer out there. I mean, if I'm being honest, like I referee some college games, and some of the junior colleges in Iowa have some unbelievable high level. And they can go there for, a really good price. So the women's is just a little bit different. Division I has 14 scholarships, so it's a higher. It's just to kind of counteract the number of football scholarships that are out there. It's a Title IX thing that women are going to have more scholarships. There's 323 teams at Division I versus 210, whatever it was. So almost 100 more Division I teams. So there's a little more opportunity for the women at the Division I level. Division II, there's a few more teams playing Division II soccer, and 9.9, so it goes up a little bit more in the scholarship money. Division III, there's not that many more, a handful. NAIA, it's about the same. But all in all, both sexes, men have about 1,400 teams playing college soccer. Women is about 1,500. So there's a few more opportunities out there. So that's the scholarshiping piece. And the coach decides who gets that money, right? The coach decides how it's divvied up. The coach could give 9.9, full rides, and nobody else gets any money, and they're all walk-ons, or they could divvy it up across the board, right? It's totally up to the coach. And then they can combine it with academic and merit money and things like that. Second myth, if you're good enough, coaches will find you. Most scholarship and most roster spots go to those that market themselves, all right? So email coaches, reach out to coaches. That Josh Allen, they said he emailed 1,000 coaches, right? He got 2 responses. One is in junior college, it was Wyoming and Eastern Michigan, right? If you wait for coaches to come find you, then probability of that happening is going to be pretty limited. And college coaches go to events and they go watch you play because they know about you. They have a relationship with you. If they know your schedule, they're going to maybe come watch you play. When I would go to a tournament, when I'd go to a showcase, or I'd just go to a high school game, I was getting a schedule from a player and they would say, "Hey, coach, I'm playing at such and such a time. Would you come and watch me play?" And yeah, I'm going to go to the tournament tomorrow at 8 a.m. I'm going to be on field 1. I knew it. I had to go watch this player on field 1. And then at, 9 o'clock, I would go to a different field and watch somebody else. I knew my plan when I went to an event. Same thing. When I'm planning the season, I'm looking ahead. I'm not just making up, I'm going to go to this game tomorrow night and just randomly going to show up. If I'm going to go to a high school game or a club game, there's a reason I'm going. Because I have a relationship. I know about a kid. I need to see them play in person because I need to evaluate if they're a good fit for me. Video could show you most of that, but not all the little intricacies. Most college coaches are going to want to see you play in person. Just to make sure, what do you do off the ball? What do you do? How do you react? How do you react to a play? How do you, when something's not going your way, how do you respond? And what kind of leader are you? What do you do off the ball? All these little things are important. Talked a little bit about the different levels of play, but another myth is Division III and NAIA, right? I think a lot of people put those off and say, well, they've never heard a lot of those schools. I went to Loras, and I had never heard of Loras when I was 16 years old. And I lived an hour away. I'm from the Quad Cities. I went to Assumption, but I went to Loras and played college soccer. Like I said, when I was 16, I had never heard of them. All right. And I never knew the level of play. I never went to a college game. And so go see college games this fall. You're in prime time, right? You're in high school seasons and whatnot, but try to go see college games of all levels. You have some quality teams in your area, go see them, or if teams are coming that way, or go on a little road trip, or if you're going to a tournament or you're going somewhere, or you get a weekend off, go see someone play that maybe you'd be interested in seeing play. I try to see a lot of games. I referee a lot of games, but I try to go see different levels of play so I know what coaches are looking for. I can see, okay, they need a center back, but styles of play are important. How do you fit in? These types of things. But reality is yes, the best teams are maybe the top end of Division I. The Indianas and Michigan States and things like that. But there's a lot of overlap. There's Division II teams that can beat Division I, Division III teams that can beat Division II and Division I. My team was doing it. It's not football and basketball where this would be a bloodbath because you're dealing with 400-pound linemen versus 300-pound linemen, or 7-footers versus 6'6" centers, right? Soccer is a different ballgame. So I want to talk about 5 major mistakes in recruiting. All right. And this is a little fun video I have. Hopefully I can get it going. We'll see if it's not working. Oh, may not happen for us here tonight, folks.
Are you going to play in college?
Yeah. Probably D1.
That's cool for who?
Either
Got a little
North
problem.
Carolina
I don't know what happened there. Let me see if I can do this.
or Duke. Maybe.
Are you going to play in college?
Yeah. Probably D1.
That's cool for who?
Either North Carolina or Duke. Maybe Wake Forest or State if I have to. I'm not sure yet.
Are those coaches at the game today?
I don't know. I haven't talked to them yet. I'm only a junior.
So how do you know you can play for them?
They all sent me letters asking me to come to their camp so they could get a better look at me. So they definitely want me.
That sounds stupid. They probably just want you to come to their camp.
Plus my coach said it's an Ncaa dead period and they can't recruit me until after July 1st prior to my senior year.
That's stupid too. Of course they can recruit you. I have friends who are sophomores and are committed to schools already.
I'm not worried about it. My dad's buddy said I can play D1 for sure.
You are a tool. Did you even send them video?
No, I don't have any. I think my coach was going to get some and sent to some schools randomly.
That's a pretty stupid idea. I heard they get a lot of tapes sent to them.
I'm not worried. I was all conference.
You are a tool. Don't you think most kids who want to play in college were all conference in high school? Do you have good grades?
I have a 2.5, and that's all I need to be eligible.
You are getting dumber the more I talk to you. What if you can't get into a school with that? Or what if the coach prefers athletes with better grades?
But I'm really good. My mom says so.
Your mom is stupid too. Don't you even want to look at D2 and D3 schools?
I heard they suck. I'm pretty sure I could play at any D2 school that I wanted to.
You suck. You know there are like 15,000 high schools and 1,000 colleges, so only the best players in the country can play D1. Have you ever been to a D2 or D3 game?
No, they suck.
You suck.
Like I said, pretty sarcastic, right? But and he makes all the mistakes. Had some fun making that. I've watched it a lot. I still laugh because I see this on a regular basis, right? And I did as a college coach, and I think most of my college coach friends would say the same thing. But obviously, targeting the right schools is a huge deal. So don't target the wrong schools. You got to be honest with yourself, and don't target schools that aren't good fits, right? Like I said, I talked to a prospect tonight, and the family was like, we should go look at this school. I'm like, we're not going to get into that school, right? This academically, I know that school, it's not going to happen, right? We're not going to get into Harvard if we're for a 3.5 GPA. That's not going to happen, right? So first off, athletically, everybody wants to play Division I in the highest level. Know what that is. Go see a Division I game. If you think you're Division I, go see it. All right, don't just sit and think you're Division I and you've never seen the level of play. Many prospects overshoot in the prospect in this process. You need to know what that entails, right? So some games are free. I went to Wisconsin last week, and it's free to go to their games, and it's not that far away. So check them out. Academically, schools that are above your academic rigor, like I mentioned, today, if you're not going to get into the school, you're wasting your time. But you also, if you're barely going to get into the school, then you're not going to get that much merit award. All right. But if you, there's different tiers of academic level too, right? So Harvard's up here, right? And you maybe won't get any academic money at Harvard because everybody at Harvard's the most brilliant person, right? But if you go one tier lower, you could get tons of academic money and still have a really good experience and still put yourself in a much better spot financially and all these different things going forward. And you might, depending on levels of play and stuff like that, there's different tiers there as well, just kind of like there is in soccer, right? So finding your niche, where you fit in academically, where you fit in athletically, where do you fit in financially? Is it going to be a place that you can afford after it's all said and done, or is it not? So target schools that are going to be in your price range. I help with that process. It's, helping the clients I work with, making sure they hit their targets on all these pieces. And then what's the experience, right? What's the overall experience? Is it a winning team? Is it an area you want to be in? Is there a great culture? Is it fun? I do personally think you get out of college what you put into it. All right, but it's got to be right for you, right? If you're an outdoorsy type person and you love, going on hikes and being in those areas, and you go to school that's, super urban and a downtown setting, and it's a super small campus, and, you're probably not going to be happy, right? So what's the experience? What's the overall experience? Do you need to be on a winning team? Is that fun, right? I got players all the time. You could go, I have one right now, they could go to a Division I. It's not very good and probably never going to make their conference tournament. And if they do, they'll make, they probably won't make the NCAA tournament, and they win a handful of games a year. But he's also got some serious looks from some of the best Division III teams in the country, and that can compete for national championships, right? That's what I was, trying to tell kids when I was recruiting them, is that you can come to me or you can go there, if that was the team we were up against in the recruiting process. But we're going to be playing in November and December, right? We're going to have a lot of fun along the way. You got to find that for you. Everybody's different. Every player has different priorities. And that's the fun part for me, is everybody I work with has different priorities amongst these things, but we're making sure we target the right schools based on those priorities. Don't contact too few schools. Like I said, Josh Allen, they say he reached out to 1,000. Maybe that's a bit of a stretch, but you can't just apply to your dream school, your backup school, and your safety school like people used to do, right? That's for non-athletes. If you want to play in college, you need to go where you're recruited to. You need to go who wants you, right? You can't just force your way on the roster like I mentioned before. So it's important to cast a wide net, diversify your options. I think it's great to have dreams. I'm not trying to crush anybody's dream on here. If you have some stretch schools that you want to reach out to them. Get in front of them, find out how you need to get in front of them. If you really want to play at Clemson and you think you're good enough, get in front of Clemson. Somehow you got to find a way to get in front of Clemson. You got to go play, and, you got to send them your information, your tape, but you also have to maybe go to their camp. They might say, well, we liked your tape. They watch them all. I promise you. They have a grad assistant that sits and watches every video that comes in. Then they might say, yeah, you need to come to our camp. Well, can you afford the $1,000 to go down to their camp, stay for a couple nights, gets to get a hotel, things like that? Is that real? Or, can you, that's the first step. And then if they like you at your camp, maybe they'll come see you play. And that's a faraway school, so that's a bit of a stretch. If it's more local, they might be more apt to just come watch you play in person. They might not need you to come to the camp. But, those are things that can play into this thing. So diversify your options. Maybe you look at a Clemson, but maybe you look at a school closer to home, right? Another Division I, maybe some Division IIIs in there and Division IIs, and you have a big, even some junior colleges, right? And you have a big, a lot of options. And then as you start getting interest back, then you can narrow it down, right? Because then you hold the keys because you've gotten a lot of interest. But if you overshoot it and you don't get any interest back, then you're stuck spinning your wheels. So cast a wide net, listen to everybody, and then kind of see what the options are after that. Because the prospects that do that have better turnout, right? This thing works better for them. All right. And sometimes you find your dream school is a school you never heard of. So reaching out to a lot of schools can be really, really helpful. Don't have a false sense of security. A lot of awards and accolades, those don't mean anything to college coaches. They don't care, right? If you're all conference, all state, coaches don't care because that's different one place than it is another. What all conferences in California is different than it is in Illinois, right? It's just the way it is. And to be honest, nobody really cares because they know there's always some politics involved and there's other things that go into it, or certain coaches didn't vote or whatever it might be. Coaches don't care. They only care if you can play. they're going to go see you play a lot if they're interested in you, because they want to make sure they're getting the right player. Because college coaches decide who's recruitable. No one else, right? It's not your high school coach, your friend's dad, or your mom, like the video showed, right? Like the college coach decides if you're recruitable or not. Like I said, they may respond to you. They may respond, yes, we're interested. Come to our camp. They may respond, hey, we're really interested. We'd like to come watch you play. They may not respond, and then you may have to try to hit them a couple times. And then if you don't respond after a couple times, probably just spinning your wheels, because they don't need a player like you. That's just the reality of that sometimes. So the college coach decides. I try to think my eyes are somewhat of second set of eyes for college coaches. I can kind of recommend them. I can recommend a player. I can say, hey, you should take a look at this player. I think they'd be a good fit for you based on all of the priorities that they have and the level of play they are. And then sometimes that, a lot of times that opens the door for the players I work with. But if you don't have anybody like that, ask a local college coach potentially to come watch you play. It's hard. It's a hard thing to have a coach's ear, to be able to get in the college coach's ear and say, hey, this is a player you want, right? And fortunately, I can do that. But you're going to get a lot of emails back from coaches. You get camp invites, right? So is that real interest or is it not, right? And that's the thing we're going to talk about here in a few minutes. Camps is a bit challenging, because I don't think, you can spend a ton of time and energy and money going to camps. And are you really spinning your wheels? Out of those 75 kids at that camp, are they really only recruiting 3? Most rosters, no one's ever recruiting more than 10. So if you think about it that way, if they have a camp of 400 people, is it really a recruiting camp, or is it, a money-making camp? But, they may keep you on the line for a while. And they may, they want to see what's going on out there, especially early on. You might get some emails back just to kind of keep everybody on the radar, let everybody know what's going on. And then as time goes on, they might start pushing the camps and things like that. But you'll know if it's personal. And coaches can mail merge on their computer and make an email look like it's personal. If you get a handwritten note, that's what I mean. Or you're getting texts. You're getting texts from coaches, then we're talking real. All right. But if you're getting very personalized responses to the questions you ask in an email, that's real. All right. If it's just this, if it looks like it might be a mass email, it probably is. All right. But if you can always ask a question from the mass emails, I always think if you ask questions and a coach responds, then maybe there's some reality to it. Now, there's some coaches out there that are still pretty good at, they respond to every email, or they have an assistant coach that does, or they have a secretary that does, and they respond to it with an answer, and then it makes you feel wanted, and then you go to their camp, and then you realize that you weren't really being recruited. It's few and far between. 99% of them, if they're getting back to you, there's going to be some interest. So I always say you have to ask questions. I will talk about that in a few minutes. And I mentioned it before. Coaches go to showcases, tournaments, and combines with a plan. Don't wait until it's too late. Recruiting doesn't happen your senior year. Now, you do get on radars your freshman and sophomore years, even junior year, but you might not hear anything for a long time. The coaches can't even talk to players until June 15th after their sophomore year. Doesn't mean you're not getting on coaches' lists. But if you are a senior now, it's not too late. You can still, we're still in fall of senior year. There's still going to be plenty of opportunities out there. So, but you got to move. If you are in that boat, you got to move. And I think, start getting in front of coaches, make sure you get a video put together, all these different things, and do it quickly. When you ask your coach to help you, I think it is important to ask your coaches to help you club in high school. And some coaches are better than others, and more comfortable. All right. But ask your coaches what their comfort level is, if they're willing to help you, and if they can help you, and see if that can open some doors. It may not be able to. The coaches are busy. All right. This is a hard thing for coaches to do, and a lot of times, they don't have as many connections or resources or time and energy, because they're coaching your team and they got a family at home, and then they got to do this too. But ask what their comfort level is, and if they are comfortable, maybe they can help you out. ID camps, I just want to talk about that real quick. Are they worth it, right? And I think there's a lot of ID camps, and I think there's a lot of ones that aren't worth it. I think there's a lot more that aren't worth it than there are the ones that are worth it. I think they can be really important when specifically a coach is interested in you. They need to see you play. You want to see their environment. You've been personally contacted by those coaches, several, head back and forth. You've developed a relationship, things like that. Some of these huge ID camps, they can be okay. It can be, if I like 1-day camps that are, under $125, $150, right? I run one in the Quad Cities and over the holidays. Last year I had 40 college coaches at it, right? And a lot of kids got some initial interest from that. They can be good. One, because it's not costing you a ton, you don't have to travel, right? So you're not throwing everything to the wind, but you go to one of these other ones that could be, you got to stay in hotels and you got to fly somewhere and do all this stuff in hopes that you might get seen. The return on investment isn't as high, I should say that. But if it's a smaller camp, so then there's each college usually has a big ID camp, but sometimes they even have smaller ones that are more personalized and really for their top recruits. And you would know about that through like a personalized email or a phone call from a coach. Like, hey, we're having this camp. We're only bringing our top 20 guys in. We'd like you to come. We're trying to figure out who those guys are. We're trying to recruit 6 guys this year. Would you be interested in coming? If you're just getting a mass email, those types of things, again, it depends on, is it worth the travel, time, energy, and money? So what I say is, people I work with, we have a little worksheet we do, have a budget for camps. How much are you going to spend on the year? Not just for one, because they keep popping up, right? You can't just like, oh, I think I need to go to that one. Here's another $400. Here's another $200. Here's another $150. Have a budget, stay within that budget. Do everything you can do to maximize that opportunity. So before the event, you're emailing the coaches that are there. If it's a bigger camp, you're figuring out which ones could be the right targets for you, and then you can go to those ones. So I think it's important that you just do the homework ahead of time, so you're not just sitting there every time a camp email shows up that you think you have to go. Have a good highlight video. I think a good highlight video is 2-3 minutes long. You circle the player that you circle your plays, and so the coach knows who you are in every play. Those are important. You put your best stuff at the beginning, and it shows your strengths, but it should show everything that position should be doing too in a college game, right? So I had a center back fairly recently who didn't show any heading, and I'm like, well, in college, the center back's going to head a lot because the keepers are going to punt a lot more than they probably do in club and stuff like that. I said, we got to find some heading clips. Like, well, it doesn't happen in my games a lot. Well, we got to find that. We have to make something up. We have to have a scrimmage at practice so we can get some heading clips, whatever it takes. We need to show those things so he can be better showcased on his video. But a video can open doors. A good video can get them to really want you to see you play live, whether it's a camp, come see you play. It can really start the process. I've had kids get recruited straight from video. I got many of them right now. Their video is good enough. That can happen. I also think having a full-length video in addition to your highlight video is important. All right. So if you have I like to have my clients that I work with have a highlight video, but also have a full-length game video, because coaches might say, well, I love your video, but I'd love to see a full game. All right. So having a good one. Part of it, who you're playing against, it does matter, level of play. So it's hard to, you might have 4 goals one game, but if you're playing against really bad players, coaches will notice that, you can't hide all of that. So you might be able to show some of those, but level of play does matter on video. So, be a little bit precautious with that. But it is an important part of it. Other advice, be in shape when you go to events, camps, showcases, tournaments, off-season stuff. Obviously, a lot of you guys are in high school season right now. If you're not, in high school season right now, obviously, like, staying in shape and being ready to go. Because when you go to those, you need to show your best. there's a fine line between the right amount of contact and being annoying. Right. Don't, you're not hearing from a coach, don't bombard them. But, you can reach out every couple of weeks. But, if you're being annoying, you're probably gonna get crossed off the list. But if if you got something to tell a coach, do it. Reach out, tell them about the score from last night's game. If you're actually being recruited by that coach, you're talking to them, or ask questions about, how's their season going? I looked and saw you lost the other night. How was the game? If you have something to say, you can ask that stuff. But just to reach out every night, is probably annoying, right? Have a voicemail on your phone. Have it set up. Check your voicemail. Return voicemails within 24 hours. Return emails within 24 hours. Check your email daily. Have a different email than your school email. Those are all little things that I think can make a huge difference. School emails can block things and go to spam a lot easier. We want to make sure that gets through. We don't want to make sure you're getting all the emails you get and that type of thing. So that's important to just stay on top of things and make sure you're taking care of all that and moving your list. How do you move yourself up the list? Other common questions: am I good enough to compete in college? I think there's a place for almost everybody. I don't think there's for everybody, but I do think there's a place if you really, truly will have a desire to play. Almost anybody can. What level is best for you? That varies, right? And a lot of times I say, hey, you're good enough to potentially play division, low level Division I, but it's also, high level Division III is right there too, right? So you can't get caught up in the division name. Find good fit opportunities. Don't get caught up in what sweatshirt you're wearing, right? Because a lot of kids get caught up. I want to go to a Division I school, so I want to wear that sweatshirt so it looks good on social media when I commit, right? Well, guess what? Nobody really cares after you graduate. I promise you. If you're off playing college soccer at a Division III school, and you were the best player in your high school and even one of the best players in the state, good for you. Nobody. That's an unbelievable opportunity, and go do it and be proud of it, right? Don't be stuck that, hey, I have to wear this Division I shirt and be chasing that. How do I develop a relationship with a college coach of a program I'm really interested in? Like I said, you need to send them the correct info. You need it usually starts with emails. You can make phone calls. If you cold call a coach, not many kids do it, but it's big time, right? Like you might, after you followed up, maybe you got to send an email and the coach didn't respond. The kid that calls me and says, "Hey, coach, did you get my email? This is Dan Rother, and I sent an email like a week and a half ago, and I wanted to know if you got it and were able to evaluate my video and see if I might be a good player for your school." It can move you up. It can. It may not, but it could. Make sure they got it, and then you stand out, right? How do you stand out? If everybody's the same and they're recruiting, 70 kids for 5 spots, how do you creep up the list, right? I think you got to ask questions. And I mentioned that earlier. You got to ask questions in your emails and your phone calls and your texts. Ask a question so the coach has to respond. I think an easy first question is, Coach, what do I need to do to be considered a prospect for your program? That's the question, right? What do I need to do, or what's next to be considered a prospect for your program? Or what's next steps in the process for you? Should we set up a Zoom call? Question mark, right? Can we set up a Zoom call next week? Question mark, right? Those things. And they come back and say, yes, let's set up a Zoom call next week at 7 p.m. Boom, you're in, right? Now you're being recruited. Those things can make a difference. So have questions in there. Don't just leave it, as a statements and sentences. End up with some questions. NCAA Eligibility Center. You might see this stuff come across. I don't think you need that until you're being recruited by a Division I or Division II school, and you're going to go on an official visit. Until that point, you definitely don't need it. And the coach will guide you when you need it. It costs, $90 or $100 to go through that process. It will tell you if you're eligible to play at that school or by the NCAA. But that being said, coaches will guide you. At Division III, you don't need it. Ncaa has their own eligibility center, but I think why pay the money until you know you need to do it? And the coaches will help guide you on that. I've never not found a coach that didn't help with that process. So yeah, again, top student athlete recruiting, that's really just me, I use my experience and connections to help prospects and their families gain more exposure, find the right fit, to attend and compete at, save money on college costs. My class of 2021 saved a ton of money, 2022s as well, and then help facilitate the process from start to finish, and reduce stress, and then help parent teenager relationships because of the whole process. So if there are questions, feel free to put them in the chat, or the Q&A. You want an evaluation, or I've been talking to Coach Darren about maybe coming down, seeing a game, some stuff in November when you guys kick up a club again and stuff like that, just to be able to evaluate if somebody wants to kind of know where they fit in and things like that. I'm willing to help out with that and try to be a little bit more involved. So, I'm only an hour away. So I think there's some things we can do, whether it's have some meetings, those types of things, or just come out meetings as a group, or maybe individual meetings, kind of help people out that way, come to evaluate players. But if you want my individual personalized service, you can certainly call me about that too. And I can give you an idea how that runs, where I basically walk with you through the process and help you find great opportunities. And I reach out to coaches on your behalf and really get this thing moving. And that's another way we can do it. So if you're interested in any of that stuff, or just have a question, I'm willing to answer it. It's not high pressure sales or anything like that. I work with people who want to work with me. I use my experience and successes to help you through that process. So hopefully you got some good information here tonight. Hopefully you found it helpful. Again, anything in the Q&A or the chat, I'll stay around for another minute or two. If not, feel free to send me an email or a text and go from there. Thank you.